A Barbie Christmas Carol. So we start out with Barbie getting ready for a Christmas party, but her little sister Kelly doesn't want to go. Kelly expresses the desire to stay home, not really being in the Christmas mood. And Barbie decides that the most logical thing to do in this situation is to tell Kelly a story illustrating how people who don't like Christmas are shallow and self-absorbed. Wait, Barbie's telling a story about how people can be shallow and self-absorbed? Yeah, coming from her, that's funny. So Barbie gets a snow globe off her shelf to use as a visual aid, and then she begins her convoluted, but completely original, story. We're introduced to our main character of the story within a story by way of a song number, in which she's singing a classic Christmas song for a cheering audience. It appears that Eden is very happy in her singing career, but as we soon learn, this is all a facade. It turns out that Eden in fact hates Christmas, and thus is bitter and conceited. She is so bitter and conceited, in fact, that she laments to her cat about how she is trained to sing opera, and yet she is reduced to singing Christmas carols. Wait a minute, that sounds like a valid complaint. She worked long and hard to be able to sing opera as well as she does, and yet she has to sing boring old Christmas songs with no variety just to pay the bills. And yet, I feel like I'm not supposed to be sympathizing with her? And indeed, we get confirmation of this when Eden is a bitch to her best friend for no good reason. But that's nothing. Now we get our real confirmation that she's evil.
Who said anything about a holiday? I'm aware it's Christmas, which means there's only 2 weeks before you all get the privilege of being in Eden Starling's new show. You should be begging to rehearse.
Wait, if it's only 2 weeks until their performance, then they kinda have to work on Christmas. How did they not know this going in? Everyone tries to object, but Eden says that if they don't come in to work on Christmas, they will be fired. Yeah, that's gonna be true in any job. If the boss says to come to work and you don't, you're fired. That's how it works. Anyway, Catherine tries to convince Eden to change her mind, but Eden refuses, quoting her Aunt Marie. "In a selfish world, only the selfish succeed." Huh, that's a good motto. I'll have to remember that one. I mean, obvious villain is obvious.
Later that night.
So Aunt Marie, or let's be honest, Jacob Marley in drag, comes into Eden's room to visit. And we all know the formula. You will be visited by 3 spirits, okay?
Later that night.
Enter the ghost of Christmas past, through an awkward jump scare.
Oh, I had the strangest dream last night. Really? I'd love to hear all about it!
Was that really necessary? So anyway, after that, GCP introduces herself to Eden.
Who are you? Why, the spirit of Christmas past, of course! Didn't your Aunt Marie tell you I was coming?
Didn't you even read the book we're plagiarizing? So they go off to visit Eden's past, the cat of course coming along for the ride because funny, and along the way we learn that GCP in fact has a huge celebrity crush on Eden. Awkward.
I'm a huge fan of yours!
Not a fangirl!
Yeah, I'm afraid so. So they finally arrive in Eden's past, landing in a dark, dreary room completely devoid of cheer. GCP thinks that she must have miscalibrated since this couldn't possibly be Christmas, but Eden assures her that it is Christmas. Wait, she's the ghost of Christmas past. Shouldn't she have already known that? So we have a sad little moment as we reflect on just how much it sucks to be Eden, as we are forced to watch as Aunt Marie scolds past Eden.
Can I go over to the Beadnell's house?
Of course not. After dinner we rehearse. What Catherine and the Beadnells want doesn't matter. What do I always tell you?
In a selfish world, the selfish succeed.
So do what I tell you to do and don't do what you want to do. Wait, what? So we get another fangirl moment when past Eden practices her scales and GCP listens in awe of her idol's early years. But then Eden stops suddenly.
Why did you stop?
You're the ghost of Christmas past! You should already know this! So Eden and GCP fly after past Eden and... Oh my god, I just realized something. The ghost of Christmas past is Photon. It all makes sense now. The haircut, the gay overtones, the fact that she's a semi-omnipotent doofus, not to mention the fact that she has no idea what normal humans find socially acceptable.
No, silly. Ta-da!
Sorry, where was I? Oh, right. Past Eden makes it to her best friend's house, and then they go inside to celebrate Christmas with the family. Then, present Eden falls through a wall.
Oh, did I forget to mention we float through walls?
She's not very good at her job. We do learn one mildly interesting thing while they're in this realm. Apparently animals are more sensitive than humans to the temporal wake or whatever, and they are actually able to see the astral projection time travelers. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. They're not actually traveling through time, they're just observing, and it's already been established that they can't make even the slightest change to the past. So how is this possible? How can the animals be reacting like that? Did they react the first time around? Are they actually creating a stable time loop? What? This makes no sense! And before you ask, yes, the humans do react to the dog reacting to the cat, thus completing the raping of the timeline. But anyway, getting back to the actual plot, Eden opens her present from Catherine, and we see that it's a snow globe. Wait a minute, isn't that the snow globe that Barbie had in the beginning? Does that mean that Barbie's Eden? That really makes no sense. Wow, there I go again, getting distracted. Sorry, it's just that the party is so boring. No wonder she grew up hating Christmas if this is what they did every year. Eden and Catherine perform a song for the family, and GCP gets a little carried away in the excitement. Photon, personal space.
Where is Eden?
I had no idea.
Yeah, I'm just adding this to the list of things she should already know.
Later that night.
So now, of course, we cut to Eden once again sleeping in her bed as she awaits the arrival of the second of the 3 Christmas ghosts. This is, of course, shown through the traditional imagery of floating instruments playing Christmas songs of their own volition. Wait, what the heck is going on here? Actually, on second thought, this imagery does seem awfully familiar. Oh my god, the ghost of Christmas present is Holger, the familiar of Sayaka's witch! So Eden and GCP, the second, travel into, well, the present, through what looks suspiciously like a witch's labyrinth. They arrive on scene on Christmas Day, which, come to think of it, is still the future, so what the heck. They see that all of Eden's employees are indeed practicing for the play as Eden ordered them to do, and moreover they seem to be rather enjoying themselves. But then we see that this is largely due to the fact that they're throwing rotten tomatoes at Eden's picture on the wall. One of the tomatoes actually goes through Eden as it flies at the picture. This upsets Eden so much that she starts pouting and saying that she wants to leave. And so, GCP Squared takes her to a different setting.
This isn't my bedroom. I told you to take me home.
Oh, I thought you said you just wanted to leave. You have to be more specific.
Yeah, she's got you there, Eden. Eden overhears Catherine talking about a second show that she's in, and Eden immediately gets jealous, thinking that Catherine is cheating on her with the second production company. She follows her to the apparent side of the show, only to discover that it's an orphanage, and she realizes that Catherine is putting on a special Christmas show for the orphans. This realization causes her to feel rather like a bitch, a feeling that is not helped by the arrival of Tiny Tim with pigtails. We learn that the orphanage is running desperately low on money, and it will very probably have to close very soon. This saddens Eden immensely, and she starts to change her mind about her selfish motto, but then she remembers that it's only the end of the second act, and she'll have to make it to the end of the third act before she can actually come to that conclusion. So with that, Eden and GCP Squared return to the present, where they were supposed to have been all along, but weren't.
Later that night.
Eden is once again in her bed as she awaits the arrival of her third guest. Enter the Ghost of Christmas Future. Eden, having resigned herself to her fate, doesn't even put up a resistance this time, and the two of them travel together into the future. As they're walking through the portal, Eden notices that this one, unlike the others, has a multitude of branch-off corridors. GCF explains that this is because the future is fundamentally different from the past and the present. Whereas the past and the present are set in stone and can't be altered at all, the future has yet to be determined, and thus can follow a wide variety of different options. GCF further explains that the path they will be exploring is simply the most likely outcome if Eden is to stay on her current path. This is a much more interesting interpretation of the Ghost of Christmas Future than the one in the original short story. In that version, the Ghost of Christmas Future was just a dark-cloaked figure who wasn't even given any lines, but merely pointed to a gravestone. The message in both cases is essentially the same, instilling the fear of the future and ultimately of death. But in the case of the original, that was it. And while there's nothing really wrong with this, I just find it much more interesting when we're given this information by an actual character with some actual depth, instead of just another cliched caricature of death. Anyway, getting back to the plot, Eden and GCF enter the branching corridor that leads to Eden's most likely future, and Eden asks why it's so cold. GCF explains to her that it's because this particular branch was caused by a cold choice that she made, namely the choice to fire all of her employees when they showed up late to work on Christmas Day. After firing her employees, Eden's business completely falls apart, and she ultimately has to live in a shack, barely getting by. GCF, wanting to shake things up a bit, opens one of the windows of future Eden's cottage and allows a flyer to fly in. I'm pretty sure that's cheating. This is supposed to be Eden's most likely future, and yet the Ghost of Christmas Future has to directly interfere in order to get the results that she wants. The flyer turns out to be an ad for a performance that Catherine will be putting on, and future Eden decides to visit her. So in a Shyamalan-style plot twist, it turns out that Catherine is now acting exactly the way that Eden was in the beginning of the movie. And Eden is horrified to hear her own words coming out of Catherine's mouth. This is of course so horrible that Eden instantly wants to change her ways.
It's too horrible. I don't want to live this life. I want to change. Yes, I can change, I can change.
And so she changes. Just like that. It really is that easy. I know I should really summarize the rest of this movie, but there's really no point. We all know how this ends. There's no changes, no surprises. It's all by the book from here. Oh, except for one thing.
Now go have a holiday. I'll see you in 2 weeks when we open.
Oh right, they have a performance in 2 weeks. Well, good luck with that, getting absolutely no practice. Oh, and something about Barbie and Kelly too. Yeah, they're in this, remember? So that was a Barbie Christmas Carol. How was it? It really wasn't that bad. Most of the problems here were really present in the original, and some of them, like the Ghost of Christmas Future, were actually handled quite a bit better here than in the original. Well, that's really all I have to say on the subject. Until next time, here's your kid-friendly clip of the day. Ah! That was terrifying!
Strike the harp and join the chorus.
Follow me in merry measure.
La 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 la.